Welcome to the projects tonight. $1 billion boost for mental health pledged by the PM as the spotlight turns to one condition an expert claims has become trendy. We chat to him.
Plus, markets in meltdown. US tariff turbulence continues to rock global economies. We count the cost for Aussies.
Media Nath Valvo joins us live at the desk. How he's closing the generational gap between millennials and boomers, you guys.
Wow. Plus, we chat to the scientists bringing the Game of Thrones beef back from extinction.
Oh.
Very exciting. It's going to be part of our news segment, Game of Clones. Yeah. I've got a work Waleed. Now, fingers crossed I can get a home Waleed.
Ooh, what would you do with him?
I would just ask him fun questions. What's a tariff? Etc.
We are live from the lands of the Kulin Nation, and it's a big welcome to a woman who cannot be cloned. It's Kate Langro. One of a kind, baby.
Illegal to clone me.
Yeah, science isn't that advanced yet, I don't think.
She is keeping her powder dry. Let's get into tonight's top story. And the fallout from Trump's trade war is continuing tonight. Markets around the world reeling from historic losses amid hints of more turmoil to come. And with billions wiped off the bottom lines here at home, Aussies are being urged not to panic.
After 24 hours of worldwide economic freefall,
Donald Trump's new tariff policy continues to shake the
investor
global
uncertainty
economy.
again on display overnight.
today a slight rebound in global trade.
The market desperately wants a reversing. You could just feel it.
But warnings it could be what's known as a dead cat bounce. A minor recovery following a major plunge before the markets continue to fall.
The introduction of tariffs and the retaliation has changed the rules of global trade. But what we don't know is where do we go from here? And it's all that uncertainty that's really contributing to the sharp sell-off in stocks.
Market volatility on full display today as rumours lasting just 7 minutes sent a $4.2 trillion shock through Wall Street.
I think there was a rumor that there was a 90-day pause, which the White House has since denied.
Trump today dropping another ultimatum in response to China's 34% retaliatory tariff.
If that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on.
Before turning his attention to us, resharing this wildly inaccurate comment about our beef industry.
Australia has sold $29 billion worth of beef in the United States, and we haven't been able to sell one hamburger in Australia.
Actually, our beef exports to the US are worth around $3 billion a year. Here at home, Aussie super balances are now down a whopping 10% this year.
Australians are poorer than they were just a week ago, and we know there's still a great deal of uncertainty. The buffers just aren't there.
Now, calls are growing for the RBA to stem the bleed and call an emergency meeting with interest rate cuts all but certain.
As of yesterday, they were factoring 5 interest rate cuts by the end of the year, all because of a real concern of a global recession. The Reserve Bank really should reconvene.
So what's the good, the bad and the ugly of what all this means for everyday Aussies?
Consumer finance expert Joel Gibson is here to tell us more. Joel, first of all, many Aussies have seen thousands wiped off their super balances. What should they do?
Well, in most cases, I know it sort of goes against everything that feels natural, but we should do nothing. Because if you've got a plan, if your super is invested in a fund with professional fund managers who are investing that super based on your age and how far out you are from retirement, then you'll have time to recover those losses from the past few days. If you'd sold all your shares on Monday after the rout, for example, you would have missed out on the rebound of around 2% and a bit on the Aussie market today, for example. So as much as it doesn't feel right, the smartest option, unless you're a sophisticated investor, is actually to do nothing.
OK, what about older people then, perhaps, who are considering retirement within the next few months or years? Should their game plan be different?
Well, their game plan should be different already. I mean, obviously, if you're in retirement or nearing retirement, then, yeah, you should have some of your money invested, maybe 3 to 5 years worth of money invested in cash, and then some other money invested in growth assets like shares, so that you have time again to recover the losses in those investments. If you don't have a plan, then this is a fantastic reminder. Go out and get one.
OK. All right. Well, even if we don't go into recession, although it kind of feels like we're already in one, what effects are we likely to see?
They say when the US sneezes, the world catches a cold, so we won't be immune from that. We will see probably slower growth here. We might see higher unemployment. One upside is that we might see lower inflation because as Asian countries, for example, have to find new markets for their cheaper goods, more of that might come to Australia, whereas it used to go to the US. So that would lower our prices here. And then an upside of that is the RBA may cut rates for borrowers more times this year than was previously expected. So the consensus among the big banks and a lot of the big institutions is we'll get 3 rate cuts this year. It used to be 2. So they've already adjusted their forecasts on the basis of what's happening in the US.
Joel, one group that could suffer that no one seems to be talking about is investment bankers, hedge fund managers, stockbrokers. I'm worried they're not going to get their bonuses this year. Is there a way we could maybe start a GoFundMe, maybe pass the hat around just to help these people out?
I think that's a fantastic idea. I would love to see someone do that because I would love to see how paltry the response would be. But I think, you know, when it comes to money markets, the really good ones, Warren Buffett, for example, started converting his shares into cash a couple of years ago, and he's got $300 billion worth of cash sitting there just waiting to pounce on the opportunities now that so many shares are underpriced. So the good money market people will get paid, don't you worry about that. It might just be the ones who aren't so good who miss out on their bonuses this year.
Well, our audience is terrific, so let's see if we can get another $50 billion for Warren Buffett. Guys, dig deep.
Joel, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Wowzers.
What are the people you are?
I look out for everyone. Speaking of which, we've got an acting school in the crowd tonight, which is very exciting. Typical actors clapping themselves. That's not bad at all. And not laughing at that very funny joke. But let's go to South Australia. Acting is important. In fact, Peter Malinowskis, the Premier, found out today because sometimes you've got to act and be polite even when you're in someone's house and they ask you to sit in the world's most uncomfortable chair.
Where do I... yours chairs?
Yeah.
Visit a chair for you, Pete.
They're all free.
Get in there, mate.
Cane furniture on a radio.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's the rainfall channel.
Yeah, very interesting there. He spent the rest of the time there being like, look, the floor is better for my back, actually. Trust me.
It's time for a break. We'll see you soon. Let's get some more news now. And Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton go head-to-head tonight in the first formal debate of the election campaign. It follows another health-themed day on the hustings, with both sides promising to pump money into mental health. But a climate protester interrupted Anthony Albanese as he detailed his billion-dollar plan.
Your government has approved 33 new coal and gas projects. You are condemning young people like me to a lifetime of climate disasters. Of course, we have poor mental health issues.
Good news for close to 22,000 Australian Defence Force members working in intelligence, engineering, construction, communications and cyber. They're getting a pay rise of around $5,000 a year on top of their usual wage increases. Defence Minister Richard Marles says it's all about recruitment and retention.
We need to be making sure that the Defence Force is growing, and it's really important that we are attracting people to the Defence Force and in critical areas.
Shock news from promising Aussie cricketer Will Pucovski. He's pulled up stumps on his career on medical advice. The 27-year-old former Test player continues to suffer symptoms from repeated concussions during his career. He says the impact on his everyday life means cricket is no longer an option.
Yeah, that gets taken away from you, which is hard enough, but then you sort of think, OK, well, at least I'm not going to get hit in the head again and I'm not going to have to go through another, I guess, acute concussion. But yeah, when the symptoms are ongoing, it's pretty frightening.
Sad he was going to be a gun.
Yeah, totally.
When it comes to weddings, TikTokers are loving the idea that guests should just leave the reception without saying goodbye to the bride and groom. That way, the newlyweds get to enjoy the night without constant interruptions. While plenty of people say ghosting the happy couple is just plain rude, others love the idea of an Irish goodbye or even a French exit, as it's called. So much they wanted it all gatherings.
A French exit? Is that like you wander out with a cigarette in your hand? Sacre bleu, I'm out of here.
I mean, it also sounds like something else. That should be saved for the wedding night.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you say goodbye?
Oh, this is the greatest news I've ever heard.
Really?
Yeah.
My husband always believes in sticking around to say, I tried to leave our own wedding without him. Just wasn't having it.
He's a friendly... I was at a wedding on the weekend, on Saturday, and the MC actually asked for this. And he was like, just
Like formally?
He was like, Irish goodbye, guys. Do not say goodbye to anyone. Get out of
So
here.
basically, presents on the table, you're all dismissed.
Well, kind of, yeah. But I went through the wishing well, then I got straight out of there. But like, it was. I think it's great because it takes so long to get out of there.
But there's a loophole here. If you can have an Irish goodbye, you can have an Irish hello, where you just turn up uninvited, eat the meal, and leave.
That's good.
This guy is a business guy. Hey, guys, let's go to the Gold Coast for the greatest mayor in Australian history, Tom Tate. He was up there. He was chatting about federal funding for the post-Alfred cleanup, and it turns out he's not just the best mayor, he's also an English lit professor.
Oh. We're budgeting for 10 million. I'm hoping to come way below that, but to budget a lot less and then going back to go a bit like all the twists, please sir, may I have some more?
Yeah, all right, look. You got to admire that. It doesn't matter if the clutch is an in, just keep pushing through, go through the gears.
And also, how much the acting students love that.
Now, don't worry, though. My man, you might think, oh, he's a hoity-toity academic now. But has he lost his Queensland roots? Don't worry, he has not.
No, we're putting it in for all. You know, where there's a buck of money, the Gold Coast is there asking.
Absolutely. It's the most Gold Coast thing I've ever heard.
Amazing.
An honest politician. Who knew? You're watching the project back after this.
This is
the project.
The acclaimed actor and author best known for Blue Heelers, Rake and the 12. Now she's going on a personal journey to unearth a near 200-year-old mystery, her Indigenous past, penning a new book based on the true story of her ancestor, Nanak Garuk, and the Bunurong people. Would you please welcome Tasma Walton? Thank you very much for being here. So this is quite an odyssey for you. So let's go back, 1997. You're filming Blue Heelers. You just won a Logie, and at the same time as all this is happening, you're discovering this heritage.
1997. It was an amazing year, actually. I had this amazing apartment on the Upper Esplanade, just opposite the Palais. I could see in St Kilda, and I could see Port Phillip Bay. It was absolutely stunning. And my nana, who lived in Melbourne in World War II, staying with Nanak Garuk's granddaughter, living in South Melbourne, insisted that she come to live with me for about a month. And in doing so, she had this, what I called her greatest hits and favourites tour. And so she took me to all of these different places that resonated with her when she was a young woman in World War II in Melbourne, and told me stories along with them. And it's you know, as I've become more and more connected and understood those stories more, it revealed this incredible, rich world of women's law and saltwater country stories. And I've woven all those through the novel.
Tell us more about her, your ancestor.
So Nanak Garuk, so the novel it's a historical fiction. We don't really see the time frame of it because it's all through her perspective. It's a first-person narrative. But what happened in the early 1800s was the sealing and whaling industries went crazy, and all of these sealers flooded to the southern ocean shores. And what they were renowned for doing was kidnapping young women and children from saltwater mobs across the whole continent, bottom half of the continent. Nanak Garuk and some of her kin and their kids were abducted from Point Nepean in the on the Mornington Peninsula, taken to the islands off Tasmania, sold in a slave market, and Nanak Garuk ended up all the way over to the islands off the coast of WA. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story.
It is. It's a very intense story, and it's, you know, it's such an important kind of story that just nobody knows about. And the more that I was looking into some of these first-hand accounts and eyewitness accounts, I was going, I didn't know this full story. I didn't know what these kids and these young women were going through, and it's just sort of something that just disappeared. And when it's your ancestor, you do feel, and also having my daughter, I felt a lot of responsibility about, no, this needs to be reclaimed, her identity needs to be reclaimed, the story needs to be told.
How do you go, I don't know how to phrase this, Rove. Let's talk about Rove. How do you go running these ideas past Rove? Or, like, how do you even find time to research and, you know, have kind of, I guess, the thinking time when you live with Rove?
When he's
And I think when you live with Rove, it's pretty serious between you two.
He's serious. Look, he's incredibly supportive. I think the one thing I found though, he and Ruby both love the wrestling. I would often be taking myself away to try and get some serious writing done and hearing them practicing their wrestling moves in the other room while they're watching WWE.
So you can get some work done.
And I was going, that actually sounds like a lot more fun. So I honestly, what I needed to do with this story, it was a deep dive. And so I went to a hotel room that had a beautiful view of Warren, the ocean, and I would write late into the night and then sleep it off. And so for about 3 or 4 days, that's how I did it.
Amazing.
And it was almost like the drive to the hotel was my getting into the space, and the drive back was getting back into home life and the joy of that, which was sucker.
Rove read your first draft.
He did.
And how was that? Because it's very exposing someone reading your writing for the first time, especially if they've got to put their wrestling dollies down.
I know. He wore his wrestling belt throughout. Look, what was amazing was that he walked back in, because he did it on the plane trip, one of his, commutes to here. And he walked back in speaking language.
Wow.
He walked back in saying some of the Bunurong language that features in the novel, and I wept. So it was really special. And, he was so supportive and so generous.
Wow, what a review that is. That's amazing. Well, this is the book. It's called I Am Nanak Garok, and it is out now. In the meantime, would you please thank Tasma?
Stay with us, listen to the project. Back after this.
You're watching The Project.
Let's get some more news now. And thousands of public hospital doctors in New South Wales have begun a 3-day strike over pay and conditions. Campaigning for a 30% pay increase, they walked off the job this morning. As a result, close to 400 surgeries were cancelled. The action went ahead after last-minute talks with the Premier failed to break the wage deadlock.
I can't make up for 12 years of wage suppression in 12 months. I need more time than that.
If we can't manage to retain the best doctors in the hospital system in New South Wales, they're just going to go.
Lambo guy has struck again. Billionaire Adrian Portelli making a surprise visit to southeast Queensland to hand out $140,000 worth of Coles vouchers. The social media call-out prompted a mad rush at Nerang on the Gold Coast and at Redbank in Ipswich. Some people even camped out overnight to be front of the queue.
I recently lost my job. I was working, so it's going to be handy.
I have just gone through a little bit of a tough time in my life, so it actually really does mean a lot.
So we're going to save it for Easter to do our shopping.
Nice thing to do. And they were the animal stars from Game of Thrones. Now the dire wolf has been resurrected more than 10,000 years after going extinct. Using ancient DNA and grey wolf cells, scientists have produced 3 pups with dire wolf traits. Remus, Romulus and Khaleesi have long white hair, a more muscular jaw and are expected to end up weighing around 63 kilos each.
We edited grey wolf cells to contain those dire wolf DNA variants, and then we cloned those cells and created our dire wolves.
I mean, that is very cute.
Horrifying. Professor Andrew Pask. He was one of the people involved in this de-extinction. Andrew, are you sure this is the right idea? I mean, today, Jurassic World on Twitter, they said that we see no possible way that this could go wrong.
Well, I think the real key thing about this is demonstrating this technology, and it's really about bringing back lost biodiversity, so characteristics and incredible species that have been lost. And they use this exact same technology at Colossal to also clone red wolves. So they're the world's currently most critically endangered wolf species. So they've already been able to apply that technology to help bolster population of red wolves. So it's really about, just showing that you can actually access that DNA and you can actually engineer animals and traits back into existence.
So I get you want to show that it works and you want to practice. Could you practice on something less terrifying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible species, and it's incredible, you know, with the amount of DNA edits that were made in this species. So there was about 20 genetic edits made to a grey wolf genome that gave this dire wolf phenotype, or the way that that animal looks. And then having done that now, we can actually start to study the biology and ecology, like how this animal acted and behaved, of a completely extinct species.
Could you have brought back like a 12,000-year-old cavoodle, maybe, as well? To go further to Waleed's point, it still sounds scary. Also, I have another question. How similar will it actually be to the OG direwolf? Because no one was there to remember the other one. Like, you're not going to be at the dog park with it and be like, hey, I think that's a knockoff.
Exactly right. So this animal has 20 gene edits. There's a lot of more differences that were in the direwolf genomes. But this was really about demonstrating you can get those major characteristics back. And that's something that Colossal and us are working on for species like the thylacine, where we actually want to put that animal back into the environment in Tasmania so that it can have its role in stabilising the ecosystem again, and then using that technology that's been developed to help rescue related species that are on the brink of extinction.
Has anything surprised you about their behaviour?
They're actually really quite skittish, even though they were raised by humans. You know, they exhibit real wolf-like behaviours, that they don't come up to humans or want to interact with them. They've got that kind of timid interaction that you would see with a wild wolf, for example. It's a good thing, because if you want to understand how an animal behaved and worked, you don't really want them interacting or forming those bonds with humans. So it's a really great thing that they have still that very wild instinct to fear other animals on the landscape that aren't prey.
So, Professor, can you use this same technology to bring other icons back to life, you know, being Lara Bingle or the much-loved morning show Studio 10?
Look, there are limits to what science can do, unfortunately.
Damn it!
Professor, look, it's quite remarkable. Like, you've blown all of our minds. We appreciate your time and congrats.
Thanks very much.
Professor Andrew smiling in the face of danger.
And laughing.
Laughing.
And
maniacally.
with skulls in the background. I mean, none of that's to worry about.
No, don't be worried. Guys, if we are cloning things, though, I reckon there's loads of other things that I would like to bring back. I'd like to pop them on the table. Dodos, let's start there. Yes. Every day, I think we've got to bring back the dodos, guys. Totally. There's so many questions. How dumb are they really? More importantly, what do they taste like? Yeah, good. You know what I'm saying? Bonus points if my local pub can do a Wednesday night Dodo Palmer special. While we're at it, science, let's bring back my cat, Mr. Mittens. I loved it. Yeah, I know, right? I'll never forget that cat. He used to love sleeping under the car. It was a passion that ended up costing his life, really. But I knew that pressure hose I got from Dad would come in handy. Finally, let's bring back Betty White. I know, very sad, but again, I knew that pressure hose from Dad would come in handy. Anyway, they brought back a wolf. Let's bring back a vixen, OK? You can take it from here, science. Thank you for being a friend. Mittens.
What a place to take that. All right. Wow. Mental health was the focus on the campaign trail today, but as the PM dropped a $1 billion boost, one of our top Aussie docs dropped a bomb, claiming one of the most common mental disorders is becoming a fashion statement.
$1 billion towards Australia's growing mental health crisis. On the shopping list, 20 youth specialist care centres, 31 Medicare mental health hubs and 58 headspace services.
It will mean that young people with complex mental health needs, like personality disorders, eating disorders, will get the care that they need outside of a hospital setting.
It follows the Coalition's $900 million pledge prioritising subsidised psychology sessions.
We have promised to restore from 10 to 20 the number of sessions that young people, particularly with complex presentations, can receive.
Today's news welcomed by former Australian of the Year, Pat McGorry.
This is a massive breakthrough in building a system of care that will last into the future and turn back the tide of this mental health crisis.
The psychiatrist today using his platform to attempt to turn the tide on something else, ADHD diagnoses. In an op-ed, McGorry says, quote, far too many people are seeking to have this label applied, and that the consumer-driven phenomenon is fuelled at least in part by social contagion or fashion, as well as commercial determinants like large fees. His comments sparking outrage among some living with the condition.
ADHD is absolutely not a trend. Comments like that are really harmful because what it does is further perpetuate stereotypes. No one does this just for an accessory.
Around 1 in 20 Australians have now been diagnosed with ADHD. The number of patients on medication for the condition almost tripling in the last 10 years. And as the wait time for initial appointments balloons to more than a year for some, Professor McGorry says it's crucial those without a need for care, some highly successful adults, don't clog the overwhelmed mental health system.
The professor's comments that highly successful people don't need a diagnosis really misses the mark because a lot of the time underneath that is generations and years of struggle.
So is it time we rethink the way we look at ADHD?
Joining us now is Professor Pat McGorry himself. Cat amongst pigeons, I think it's fair to say. Let's start with this idea that it's a fashion, the diagnosis of ADHD. How so?
Well, I don't think we should start there, actually. We have seen a major increase in mental ill health in young people. It's huge. 50% increase since 2007. 2 out of 5 young people have got a genuine need for care. And the picture in ADHD is mixed. There's underdiagnosis. So picking up the comments of the person that's from the ADHD advocate, it's true. I mean, I work in Headspace. Clinically, I see lots of young people come in who have been missed or underdiagnosed. So it's a genuine thing, and I say that in the Herald Sun piece. If you read it carefully, it's 2 problems: underdiagnosis and there is overdiagnosis. There are people who, if you look at the criteria, they're things like delayed homework, trouble concentrating. They're quite vague, the criteria. So almost everyone can actually identify with them up to a point. So it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum in the community. And at the severe end, you can diagnose it as a mental disorder, which impairs your role functioning and your relationships. That's the criteria for a mental disorder. But you've got a lot of other people that are seeing these features and criteria and identifying with them, but they actually are functioning quite well and they don't need treatment.
Yeah. Are you worried, though, that the narrative of this overdiagnosis, and we saw it in the package there, people with lived experience of ADHD, are obviously kind of not agreeing with it. And also it might deter people to get a diagnosis that genuinely are struggling with it.
There's no problem with that. We're overwhelmed with people seeking the diagnosis of ADHD. 3 years ago, working in Headspace, I might see 1 or 2 people in a new session of working in the Headspace Centre. Now it's 4 or 5.
Right.
Wow.
So do you think the prevalence, you said since 2007, this massive increase?
Yes.
There doesn't seem to be much talk about the role that phones and devices are playing in that.
Or social media.
Or social media specifically.
Well, actually, there is a lot of talk about that. You probably noticed the Prime Minister has brought in a ban for young people under 16 to have access to social media. So there is a lot of talk about that. And we wrote a whole issue of the Lancet of Psychiatry journal last year, looking at the mega trends that are causing this rise in mental illness in young people. And social media is one of those trends, but climate change, housing costs, student debt, a whole range of socio-economic forces are really what's underpinning it much more than social media. Although social media is a harmful force too.
Yeah, look, your piece was really nuanced and I urge everyone to read it. And in it you discuss the commercial factors that are at play as well, that psychiatrists are almost incentivised by high fees and then are more likely to give a positive diagnosis. How do you stop that?
Well, if you look at the way it's been structured, you have to have a psychiatric opinion as a gateway to accessing the treatment. So that means there's a market for it, and people are exploiting that market. That's what concerns me. Very high fees, which actually excludes people who do need access to the treatment. They can't afford it. And if they pay $3,000 to get the assessment and diagnosis...
That's what they're paying.
Oh, it's extraordinary.
Wow.
And if you're paying that much money and you don't get the answer that you want, you're going to be pretty upset. And very, very few clinicians will actually refuse to give the diagnosis under those conditions. So we're seeing a distortion of the normal clinical process here.
Professor Pat McGorry, we really appreciate you coming in and chatting about this. It's certainly a hot button issue.
Appreciate the opportunity.
No, absolutely.
Because it's two things, not just one.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Let's for a break. See you soon. This is the project. Welcome back.
Kate, I know you love big things.
Oh, yes.
Well, huge things are happening on the project next week.
Next week on The Project, are you the ultimate Oasis fan? Before they land in Australia for their stadium tour, we're giving you and a mate the chance to see the Gallagher brothers in London or Manchester. All you have to do is watch The Project, grab the code word and enter at 10play.com.au/win.
Huge.
It's so good.
Incredible. Are you Noel or Liam?
It's Sarah
Just the
Wally.
scary one.
On board. Well, they both are.
Oh, well, Boris fan.
Yeah, they're both great. I love them both.
By the way, Sarah, I felt sorry about you before, so I found this lying around and I thought you might...
You brought it back from extinction.
And you can fill it with your tears.
Oh, my God.
It's just perfect.
This is an heirloom, thank you.
It's just been sitting in our dressing room for years.
really
and now
has.
having
There's
this
a bit of Hellier on it.
Yeah. Okay, not too much detail.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. Vintage Pokemon cards. They're in hot demand. And why wouldn't they be when some of them are worth serious coin? I sat down with a Pokemon card investor to weigh up the risks and rewards of the trading boom.
There's a chance that the holy grail of Pokemon cards may actually be in Australia, which is so exciting.
Aaron Lester Ellis is a top-tier Pokemon card collector with a very clear goal. Now, I understand you're hatching a huge plot to broker a transaction for the most expensive Pokemon card in the world. Are you allowed to tell me anything about this?
Look, I can let you in on a couple of little things. One of my friends is thinking about buying it, and it's going to cost about 9.5 million Australian dollars. Some negotiations are taking place.
I am considering selling my one-of-one PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator.
YouTuber Logan Paul bought the coveted card in 2022 for more than $8 million, setting a record for the most expensive Pokemon card ever. So how much do you think your Pokemon cards are worth?
I'd say the collection at the moment is probably worth in and around 10 million.
10 million?
Yeah. We've got sort of over 1,000 first edition PSA 10 cards, which is the first series and the second series. We sort of more focused on quality over quantity, if you like.
Aaron has dedicated his life to collecting and investing in Pokemon cards. He can still remember the first one he held.
After school one day, I noticed there was a Pokemon card on someone's wet nature strip, face down, and I actually just picked it up and I was so excited. I run back to the car, I'm like, wow, look what I found.
When he was 18, he started to see their investment potential. This was around the time trading cards began to get graded.
Basically, you see a Pokemon card in a slab or in a sealed case, and at the top it's got all the information, what year it was printed, what Pokemon it is, and the all-important grade, where they give it a ranking out of 1 to 10 to determine the condition of the card. When they introduced the grading scale, that is what made them rare, because collectors only want things in the best condition, that gem mint 10 condition.
One of Aaron's earliest investments was a mint condition Charizard card from 1999.
I said to my mum, all I have to do is hang on to this card and I will be a millionaire.
Wow.
You know.
And what did you pay for it?
I paid $5,000 for it. At 350 grand, we're well on the way. And I reckon we'll be at the $1 million within sort of 5 to 10 years for sure.
The sale of Pokemon cards boomed during the pandemic. In 2021, eBay reported a 500% increase in sales of Pokemon cards. How much money is sitting on this table?
Over $1 million.
Right here?
Yeah, I'd say around $1 million, yeah. See how this got a 9? Mint 9?
Yeah.
This is a gem mint 10. So they're both in extremely good condition.
Yeah.
But this card in a mint 9 is worth about $50,000. And this one, a 10, so $350,000. And you probably can't even tell with the naked eye the difference between the two. So getting...
So sorry. There is a $300,000 difference between these two ultimately indistinguishable cars.
Correct. Yeah. Because collectors want a gem in 10.
Can you forgive me for thinking this is bonkers?
Oh, it is bonkers. It is bonkers.
And the cards are so lucrative, they're sought after by criminals. Over the last 6 months, more than a dozen collectibles stores in Melbourne have been subject to targeted attacks. Austin D'Souza is one of the victims. He provided this CCTV of the robbery.
They stole $130,000 worth, roughly, in Pokemon and other products. They were specifically after Pokemon. They already had come in, scouted it all out, knew exactly which cabinet had what.
Since the attack, he's had to beef up the shop's security systems.
We've installed an extra $20,000 to $30,000 worth of security equipment in the business. Now we have facial recognition cameras, vehicle registration checks, so we can backtrack and identify if someone's been in our store on a specific date.
Most collectibles rely on two things, which is scarcity and nostalgia.
Owen Rask is a financial advisor and part-time Pokemon card collector. He bought a bunch of his friends' card collections over a decade ago.
I bought around $200 worth of cards from my mate, and ultimately that card collection is probably worth $4,000 or $5,000 now.
But he advises people to exercise caution with investments.
Moderation is probably the right piece of advice. There's a very high chance that Pokemon cards today are potentially in a bubble, but effectively, as long as the brand remains relevant throughout decades to come, there will be this kind of underpinning level of demand.
Do you think you will cash out?
Some days I think yes. Some days I think stuff it, let's just get out and be done with it now. Some days I think I'll donate it to charity. Some days I think I'm never going to sell it. Yeah. Some days I think, God, how silly am I going to look if it sat at that value for so long and I didn't sell it and then for some reason it dropped. All these things go through your head.
So why are you so conflicted, do you think?
It's wrapped up with promises that I made my parents, wrapped up with my own identity, wrapped up with my business, wrapped up with all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it's a big question. And ultimately, if someone comes along and makes me a ridiculous offer and I'm at a point in my life where I sort of want to move on, then of course I'll consider it.
Wow. I love that he doesn't consider $10 million a ridiculous offer.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Because it could be 20 or it could be 30.
Okay. The thing that really bucked me up about that is one of my kids collects Pokemon cards.
Oh, my God.
And when we went to Japan, he spent his whole time in the shops and they know so much about them, including that there's a lot of counterfeit ones around.
Really?
Oh.
I think that's why the experts have to give it the...
It's amazing. Like, everyone's worried about their super with Trump's tariffs. It's like, put your money in Pokemon cards. It's like, I'm not even joking.
Do not take Sam's advice on finance at all.
There's no tariff on them.
Well. What? This is amazing. So, you remember in the story Aaron was trying to broker this most expensive...
Yes.
The update on that. So, Logan Paul has verbally accepted the $9.5 million offer for that card. So the sale is on, verbally.
Unbelievable.
There is a complication though, because the import tax on getting that card into Australia would be, this is my rough calculation, about $1.5 million.
What?
Wow. Can I just say this? If someone can just put it in their pocket. Just get on the plane, put it in your pocket.
Pick it up and walk away, done. You're rich.
Okay, we've solved that.
Yeah, we have. Got to take a break. Nath Valvo after this. See you soon.
Welcome to the program.
Well, our next guest might be the only comedian healing our intergenerational divide.
There's a rumour going around that my generation doesn't like boomers, but I love boomers. Boomers, I love you. You're the only generation left with money to spend to see live comedy, so I really love you. I love you very much. Tell your friends, spread the word, organise a minibus, go pick yourselves up from your third investment property and make your way to a Nath Valvo show. Love you.
Here he is, Nath Valvo.
I wasn't nervous about this interview, but you've just told me there's an entire audience of actors in, and now I'm like, I don't know what I should do. Do I do improv? Do I cry? I don't know what I should do.
On behalf of the nation, don't do improv, please.
Okay.
That's just a rule I live life by, I think.
Yes, and Sam.
We just want you to open up like
Why
a
they
day
laugh
lily.
at that?
They're acting. Hey, you've been married for a couple of years now.
Okay, thank you.
How is married life treating you?
Every time I come on this show, I feel like you guys don't have faith in my marriage. And every time I come in, you're like, is it still going? Has he woken up to himself yet?
Look at him.
Look at him. All right, everyone, let's look at my 9.5 out of 10 husband. Thank you.
What would you give yourself?
Depends what the day is, the lighting. Yeah. 6.5, 7. What do you think, Kate?
Oh, no, you're a 10 to me.
Yeah. God, I love you. You're a 10 with your new dark hair.
It's just I'm a 0 to you. But conversation.
Our marriage is fine, thank you. It's going very well. I look to my parents, Lynn and Giuseppe. Hello, they're watching. They don't know how to change the channel. And I take inspiration from them, which I think we should all do. And the number one thing I've learned from my parents, who have been married for 40 years, is to make sure I start a sentence in the room with my husband, but then leave the room mid-sentence and say the rest of the sentence in the other room. So my husband has to yell out, "What?" Key to all marriages.
The secret to love. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Hey, you.
Why aren't you married yet?
I mean, it's a reoccurring theme on this show, unfortunately. But look, I mean, do we really want to unpick? Jules, are you watching?
We love Jules.
Baby?
Jules is another 10.
She's
Jules is a 10.
Beautiful lady.
Yeah. Oh, see. Oh.
You posted. Watch me just get out of this right now. You posted this on social media. I think we've got it here.
Yes.
What is happening here? Explain.
How much time do we have? Because this is Jargate. I'm going to kick off. Okay. I accidentally took mushies on New Year's Eve, right?
Right.
Kids don't do that. By accident. Made myself a little tea. It was...
Is that another family secret to a happy relationship?
Yeah, just be cooked and see dragons. And I had this weird... hello, Waleed. We haven't spoken yet. How are you?
I'm just waiting to hear about the dragon.
Yeah. What's your favourite illegal substance, Waleed?
Pork.
This is like come on our podcast.
This is the podcast.
Oh, yeah. So when I was cooked on New Year's Eve, I had this thought, I was going to pickle things. Like, this was the year of pickling.
Yeah.
So I jumped online and I bought all those jars, not cheap, and I bought 24 pickling jars, and then I've never pickled anything since. And then before, and then my lovely podcast, the Buck-Up co-host Kate Lanebrook, hello, told me that she wanted to make jam this year.
Apple jelly.
Apple jelly.
Right.
Which is... Do you know there's a difference between jelly and jam? I did not. Kate will tell you. Listen to that episode next time you want to fall asleep. And so I gave the jars to her. I brought them to the podcast studio, and I said, well, you can use my jars for the jam. And she said, I don't want them. So, OK, fine. So I put them back in my car, and then I forgot about them. And then I forgot to lock my car a few weeks ago, and someone stole my jars.
You're kidding. Your jars?
There's like a black market for jars for pickling.
But how's this?
What?
They left your clothes that you had in bags. They left your clothes.
Yeah, so I had to think to donate.
A homosexual man, they left your wardrobe behind.
I was closed to donate and they went through it and went, no thanks.
What was in there?
Yeah, my old clothes, only from like 2-3 years ago. And so they rejected my clothes, but then said, this is good. Sorry.
This is...
Oh, okay. I found this in Taunton's guy. He was throwing it out.
Yes.
So they said no to my clothes but took my pickle jars. So if anyone sees anyone selling pickle jars on like Facebook Marketplace or something...
Meghan Markle.
Markle's selling them. They're mine, Kate.
Wow. And if you want more of this, listen to their podcast as well, by the way.
It is a hoot.
Without the killjoys.
What?
Yeah.
Not me. I'm a buckhead.
I've gone crazy.
Anyway, Nath Valvo, the comedy spectacular, is touring.
He's doing a
the
show.
country.
It's a whole thing.
Come
Yes,
see
he's
him.
touring.
Tickets. If you see his jars, get in contact.
Yeah.
Nath Valvo, everyone.